What's up, everybody? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have an album review for you. So yet another one that I wanted to go over for the week of the 14th of October was the newest offering from Ripped to Shreds, Jubian. This comes out on Relapse Records. Actually, this is their Relapse Records debut. This band formed in 2016 in San Jose, California. This is their third album overall, and initially this was a one-man project from one Andrew Lee. He did pretty much everything, well, bass, vocals, guitars, and then he would have session drummers come in, but this was all his baby, and now this is actually expanded into at least a three-piece in the studio, which is a bit of a change for this band. Now, I've been a fan of this band for a while. I actually own the other two full-lengths and one of their EPs. In fact, their last one, Luan, actually made my year-end list in 2020, and that album is still fucking unbelievable. Now, baseline, you could just flat out call this band death metal. It would be 100% accurate, but it's kind of what they do outside of that and how they blend it into the sound. Death metal is the core, but you also have elements of grindcore, hardcore, punk, heavy metal, death doom, thrash metal. It all kind of blends together really well. And Andrew Lee, over the years, has shown off how good of a songwriter he is, actually implementing those different styles of hooks within his overall death metal sound. So needless to say, I was pretty excited for this one just because I absolutely love this band. So there's a little bit of a fanboy in me that is just trying to get out, but I'm going to keep them under control. But it's going to be difficult because this was a lot of fun to listen to. Right away, the first two tracks on here kind of just set the pace overall with their sound. Now, keep in mind that this band named itself after a Terrorizer song, so you bet your ass there's some fierce death grind on here. Very akin to, of course, Terrorizer, but also Exhumed, but it's the production and their overall sound. These guys love that HM2 buzzsaw tone, and me, being a dirty slut for that, was instantly in love as soon as I heard the first riff. But this is nothing new to any of you or me or Ripped to Shreds because they love that HM2 sound. But I think it's also like the overall tone of it. It's not like the traditional super thick HM2 sound. It's more thrashy. It's a little bit more sizzly and it kind of crackles a bit. And when it comes down to the riff playing, it's really perfect for it. Like, you get all that thick chunkiness when you get to the big death metal riffs that are all over this album, but you also get like an extra sort of like thrashy drive and you get the more machine gun sections on here and even the huge punky D beats. But again, stylistically, they're pulling from a lot of different camps, which I love. Like, there's definitely stuff that reminds you of Death, Autopsy, Dismember, even Rotten Sound. It's kind of just all whirled into this, and it's really cool because it's how they write it. Like, it's all, again, that uniform death metal sound, but you'll hear like notes of something slightly different within a song. There's some really interesting like pivots between styles on here, like Harmonious Impiety. That song shifts between like a flat out bolt thrower style groove and riff, for that fucking matter, into like flat out death grind territory and like, you know, kind of Autopsy sort of like D-beat death metal. Regardless of the style they shift to, it is always loaded with catchy riffs though. Like, that is kind of bar none the whole album. It is riff after riff, and they all are, again, super aggressive but also very hooky and complemented by very melodic lead work. In fact, I think Andrew's lead work on here is some of the best that he's done so far. And that's always been kind of one of my appeals for this band specifically, is that this band surprises me. On the surface, what you expect from a band named after a Terrorizer song, I mean, you're probably expecting just super aggressive, just kind of knuckle-dragging fucking brutality. And you'd be partially right. But this band is loaded with surprises, especially in the songwriting department. The song In Solitude, Sun Moon Holy Cult Part 3. Holy shit, that's a fucking mouthful, but that is even the longest track title on here. This band kind of went to the same school of track naming as The Chasm, Demolich, and Nile. And one in specific is definitely a Nile reference, and I'll get to that in a minute just because it's fun. But this song is over 10 minutes long. It's the third track in, and holy shit, it pretty much explores as much of the extreme metal spectrum as it possibly can, shifting from thrash metal to death metal to flat out grindcore to even death doom. In terms of the songwriting, it really reminded me a lot of The Chasm itself, just in terms of the really interesting transitions, the more melodic sections on there that are just unbelievably catchy. Like, it's probably the most melodic song on here, but it's also, again, the most expansive one. There's a lot going on, and how it flows is remarkable because at over 10 minutes long, at no point does it really lose steam. And it actually throws in a lot of really cool dynamics, shifting from like the most pulverizing blast beats and just disgusting riffs to amazing fucking melodies, leads, and even a really sweet, like, Death Doom harmony at the end, which honestly kind of reminded me a lot of Crowbar or Chemist. Songs like this in general are a big reason why I'm a fan of this band. It's that they are on the surface and for the most part still very primal, very raw, very just in your face, but at the same time kind of cerebral and musically adventurous. And that keeps this interesting because there's a ton of bands out there that do like solid HM2 death metal worship, and they mostly do a great job. I might be a little bit biased, I'll be honest there. But there's kind of like a fearlessness about this, like in terms of taking some chances and combining stuff in there to see if it actually works, and then kind of refining it too, because honestly, even in the scheme of all their albums, I would say this is their most refined. They've always taken chances on their longer songs in terms of just incorporating a lot of different elements and a lot of different dynamics and stylistic shifts. But honestly, on this one, it just kind of flows better. Everything sort of intertwines well, and I don't know, like, there's something about it that just screams epic. Like, epic in the sense of just raw, ugly death metal. It's not like your, you know, grandstanding power metal epic or anything like that. They didn't include that genre. Probably for the best, but it just sounds bigger and more far-reaching than possibly it has before. And while it does take some fun musical chances and kind of make it more adventurous, it can still get absolutely raw and fucking dirty, especially reek of burning freedom and split apart by 5 chariots. What a way to go. Usually being drawn and quartered doesn't involve a chariot, so I guess they gussied it up for that one. Anyway, those songs, very raw, very DB driven, very fast, aggressive, and they have some of the heaviest breakdowns on the album, especially Reek of Burning Freedom. When that breakdown hits with its crawling, sort of slithering riffs, it kind of just stands out as a really cool, unique moment. And while this definitely does have a lot of melody on it, it does not overdo it. Melodies are there just as a spice. Most of this is supposed to be raw and primal, and as it should be. Honestly, I think too much melody would kind of hurt this. I don't think it would actually move into melodic death metal territory, but I think it would kind of distract from the main goal of pummeling you, because that overall is definitely still the main vibe of this. This is a tight, aggressive, nasty fucking album. And honestly, that could be used to describe the fucking production here. It's very raw, but it's mixed very well. It has that right level of compression, especially the drums. The drums have such a great fucking pop to them, especially the snare. And the guitars sit perfectly out front. They're not too overdone where it's drowning out anything. Like, this is just a great mix job. And after listening to that Lorna Shore album, yeah, no, this was actually kind of refreshing, actually, in a lot of ways, if we're being honest. This whole album just kind of screams fun. Like, this was just fun to do. Like, this is so riff-centric and just paying homage to so many great bands, but so sort of creating your own unique thing here in terms of all the fun shifts and fucking little tangents this album goes on. But at no point does it sound like messy or distracted or anything like that, which is strange because I was listening to this on Spotify, and because I don't pay for it, of course, I get fucking ads. And twice in a row, I got an ad about ADHD. And I was like, man, it's kind of fucked up that you're actually fucking distracting me right now when I'm trying to fucking focus, you ironic piece of shit. And one of them came literally before the last track, which the last track is only 49 seconds long. So seriously, fuck off with the commercials. But the last track I thought was really special because, well, here's your Nile reference. The last track is called Scripture, containing the supreme internal energy arts that render the practitioner invincible throughout the martial realm. Now, of course, they took some liberties with it, but yeah, that's definitely a Nile reference if I've ever heard one. But I kind of like the fact that this album, instead of closing with the 10-minute epic, which, I mean, that's kind of commonplace with a lot of bands, like you close with a giant fucking song to close out. These guys went with a 49-second fucking banger of a grindcore song, and that was it. And it was awesome. Like, this entire album was a super fucking fun ride, and at no point was I bored at all. To be honest, I've never been bored listening to Rip to Shreds, but I mean, theoretically it could have happened. They could have shit the bed, but they didn't, because this album fucking rules. And I'm gonna go ahead and give it 4.5 stars. I think this might be the best one yet. Everything about this album, just in terms of like comparing it to their older albums, just feels tighter. It's just more refined. The melodies are more pronounced. The breakdowns really kind of sit at their own moments. There's a lot of just really cool, distinct moments in every song. In Solitude, Sun Moon Cult Part 3, I think that's it. I'm not gonna look down there and try to read it off again. That might be one of the best songs they've written. It is such a awesome song in terms of the dynamic shifts and everything, and again, like this little sampler platter of different things, but keeping it uniform, keeping it centered in on death metal, and still kind of having fun and venturing off the reservation. Like, I really love that fucking feel of this album. Pretty much, I couldn't think of a single fucking complaint I could make about this. Like, maybe there were like some slight songwriting things, but honestly, it wasn't anything that really hurt the album. Probably could have said, yeah, sometimes Andrew sounds like he's repeatedly dry heaving or hacking up a hairball when he's doing some of his vocals, but that still wasn't bad, and they still fucking contributed to the overall fucking song, so I don't have anything really bad to say about this. So yeah, this is just a flat out fucking killer album. If you love Ripped to Shreds, my God, go get this one. And if you have never checked this band out, this is an awesome place to start. I still recommend Luan too. That was an awesome album as well. And I recommend literally everything else that they put out because I don't think they have a bad album yet. Pretty much, I would just say if you like extreme metal in general, I'm pretty damn sure you're gonna find some shit you like on this album. So definitely check it out. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below at thrallsmetal.com where there is a link for our Patreon there. And while you're there, you can actually check out our shit there. Like, we have shirts. They're pretty cool. You should check them out. We also have an audio version of some of our episodes, so you can listen to us and not look at us, which, again, I think is pretty beneficial. And, of course, thank you all so much for liking, subscribing, following, all that stuff. We love doing this. And it's just amazing the response we keep getting. Again, you know, I keep thinking of different ways to thank you, but I always come back to the same awkward thank you. But it's always sincere. This is, you know, become a huge part of our lives, and we love doing it. And as long as the metal keeps flowing, which I don't think it's going to quit anytime soon, we're going to keep doing this shit. So once again, thank you all so much, and we will catch you later.